Morning. My name is Erica Antone. I am the president of our WTS Philadelphia chapter, and I am so delighted to have today's Women's History Month panel for you. Prior to getting started, I just wanted to recognize our chapter sponsors. We could not host events like this without your support. At the platinum level, we have AECOM, Burns Engineering, Greenman Pearson, HGR, Jacobs, STB, Traffic Planning Design, and Urban Engineers. At the Trailblazer level, we have CNS Engineers, HNTB, JMT, Michael Baker International, Pegasus Financial Planning, Pennoni, Taylor Wiseman Taylor, and WSP. At the champion level sponsorship, we have LTK Engineering, Remington and Bernick Engineers, RS&H, Rabinski Engineering, Swinsky Sullivan, Dokes, and TY Lin. At the advocate level, we have Aero Aggregates of North America, Aurora Engineers, Bergman Associates, Dewberry, General Highway Products, Kimley Horn and Associates, KMJ Consulting, Langen Engineering, McMahon Associates, Promatech, RK&K, Dantech, Trans Systems, and WRA. Our DBE sponsors are Arrow Land Solutions, Bree and Associates, Dovetail Cultural Resource Group, Drive Engineering, Hunt Engineering Company, JBC Associates, KS Engineers, Malik and Shear, NTM Engineering, Susquehanna Civil, and the Lighting Practice. And finally, our current agency partners include Amtrak, DRJTBC, the City of Philadelphia Office of Transportation Infrastructure and Sustainability, and Philadelphia International Airport. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to our moderator and WTS President-elect, Appy.
Thank you, Erica. Happy Women's History Month, everyone, and thank you for joining us today to celebrate What Else? Women's History Month. I'm so excited to be leading this discussion today with 3 women that I admire and look up to in so many ways. And I'm not saying that because one of them happens to be my boss, but a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. On the top right, click the view button and choose speaker view if you haven't done so already. That's going to be the best way to follow along with this conversation. Please stay on mute and feel free to type in any questions or comments you have in the chat box. You will have the opportunity to ask questions later in the program when we get to the Q&A portion. So with that said, it is my pleasure to introduce our all-star panel joining us today. In alphabetical order, because there's no other order to introduce these women, Chellie Cameron, Chief Executive Officer for the City of Philadelphia's Division of Aviation, Yassmin Gramian, Secretary of the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, PennDOT, and Leslie Richards, General Manager for the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, SEPTA. Welcome, Chellie, Yassmin, and Leslie. Happy Women's History Month, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Albie.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Before we get started, Erica, can you pin or spotlight the 4 of us?
Yes, we're working on that right now.
Okay, all right. So in WTS Philadelphia fashion, we're going to kick things off with an icebreaker to get to know the 3 of you a little bit more. We think we know you pretty well, but there's always room to learn more, right? So we're going to use the resources we have at our fingertips for the icebreaker. So that's your mouse and your camera. Here's how it's going to go. The 3 of you are going to turn your cameras off once we get started. I'm going to keep my camera on. I'll say a statement. If you agree with the statement, turn your camera on. If you don't agree with the statement, keep your camera off. Does that make sense?
I can remember that.
I think we're waiting for Yassmin to be spotlighted, but let me wait for her. I think because you're gonna get to see how this works when all of us are spotlighted. So
And they're machine washable, so when they get gross, you throw them in the washer. They
if
pack up
everybody can stay on mute, I would appreciate that, unless you're speaking.
what I brought today. They're eco-friendly dish towels that are absorbent, reusable, and washable. And they really take our reliance off of paper towels. They also store
Absorbent, reusable, and washable.
Yassmin, where are you?
So this is a big list that I'm trying to run through. Yassmin, if you can talk, that might help you pop to the front.
I think she logged in with like Y Gramian instead of Yassmin. This is the this is real life, everybody. So this is how all our meetings go. So I'm glad we're getting to experience this as well as part of this women's
This is life these days, far from perfect. We all do the best we can.
Exactly.
Who was it, Oppie? Somebody in our senior team meeting last week said, I just want to make it through one day without somebody telling me to unmute myself or to.
Yes, yes. Yassmin, can you hear us? We didn't lose her, did we?
I don't see her video, but I do see her on the participants list.
Yeah, I see her on the participant list as well.
See her video?
No, her camera is off. And I know I saw her. She was logged on and she said everything was good.
I just texted her to make, she could have gotten pulled out for an issue, so.
Okay, well, why
let
don't we
you-
get started with you, Chellie and Leslie, and then we'll wait for Yassmin to join us. So ready to play the icebreaker game?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we turn it off to begin?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead and turn your cameras off. All right, first one, easy one. You're a morning person. So how early are we talking, Chellie?
4 to 4:30 a.m. every morning. You've probably received emails from me that early.
Yes, but rest assured, you'll never receive an email from me that early.
And
So
that's not a problem. I finally figured out how to use the option on Outlook where I could choose the time that my emails go out. So I did that effectively the other weekend where I sent out a batch of 40 emails at like 8 a.m. the next day.
yeah. Leslie, I think you're like me. You're not a morning person.
I'm not a morning person. I have two things, and I'm still bitter that I lost an hour this weekend. So I'm still getting over that. You're all gonna have to deal with that with me. Everyone who knows me knows that this week, when I lose an hour, just beware, because I like my sleep and I like my mornings. I did just get a text from Yassmin. She's having problems with her Zoom, so she's working on that.
Okay, good
Okay.
to know. Thank you, Leslie. All right, Chellie, turn your camera off. Next one. This is going to be fun. You have made or been in a TikTok video.
Before we go, I want to make sure I congratulate Tiffany Haddish, who won the best.
Okay, neither one of you guys. Okay. I was thinking maybe you guys were into these social media platforms, but okay, no worries. I haven't either.
Our employees have, but I have not.
So maybe you're going to be in it soon, Leslie.
I think now that you just said that, I have a feeling it's probably already been scheduled for me.
All right, next one. You have been living it up in sweatpants, PJs, loungewear when at work. So business on top, pajama chic on bottom. Yes, yes. Any particular that you, what do you prefer?
Yoga pants on the bottom.
Yoga pants.
But
Okay.
I usually have pajama flannels on the bottom. They
Okay.
match everything. They're plaid.
Yes, yes. Awesome. All right.
But not in the office, not when I'm here. So
okay. That's okay. We're not judging. It's a judgment-free zone.
Mhm.
All right, next one. Turn your cameras off. We have a couple more. You binge watched a Netflix or another streaming service show this year. So that means January, February, March. All right, gotta share. What shows?
I just finished WandaVision, which I love, by the way, and highly recommend anyone who enjoys Marvel comics. It was amazing.
Okay.
Behind Her Eyes, I think
I
is.
just started watching that.
Oh, stick with it. It's got a twist at the end that'll blow your mind.
Yeah, I just started watching that. Okay, great picks. Leslie, I'm gonna add yours to my list. Okay, last one. So cameras off one more time. You picked up a hobby since the start of the pandemic. Okay.
Yeah.
What hobbies?
So we sold our house and moved into an apartment. And I have started taking care of houseplants. And something I never tried before and something I was very unsuccessful at, but I am committed. I have gotten rid of mealybugs. I have gotten rid of houseplants. I have quarantined plants that required it. And I'm now successfully nurturing 5. I'm up to 5, and hopefully I'm going to get a new one this weekend.
Wow. Good luck. Good luck. Chellie?
I need it.
So I actually picked up something that has been a joy for me since I think I was 5 years old, and I started reading a lot more again over the past year, just as a way to escape and learn more and things like that. I think I read, I'm going to forget, I might get their number wrong, 34 books last year.
Wow.
On my Kindle, and then maybe a few in hardback, but really just kind of tried to every night. I was on a streak for something like 130 days where I read at least a little bit every evening, and it's been a great joy to find that again.
Wow. Good for you. I'm still, as you know, we read Becoming for our book club at PHL, and I'm still finishing it. So I'm almost there. I wish I could read as much as you, Chellie, but it's just not in my list of things to do right now. So that's it. That's the end of the game. I see Yassmin on the top of my screen, but Yassmin, have you joined us? Can you hear me?
I'm actually on my cell phone. I'm sorry, my computer is not working. I logged in, I heard most of the conversation. I really apologize for this challenges we're faced this morning with my connection. I don't know what to do, but I can hear you and I can definitely participate.
Okay, no worries. I was just telling everybody this is welcome to 2020, 2021, 2020 continued. This is the reality of our everyday. There you are.
We see you. We see you.
From my phone.
Oh, looking good. Looking good, Yassmin.
Invention of 21st century, the iPhones.
Thank you. Thank you for making it work. Thank you, Yassmin. So we just wrapped up the icebreaker, and we'll get right into the conversation if you guys are okay with that. So I know we just had, that was fun to do the icebreaker, but I know this last year, certainly, I don't know if fun would come to your mind to describe this past year. As leaders, I know you have a lot weighing on your minds, and I know it wasn't easy and it still isn't easy. So I want to start off by asking you, how are you? How are you doing?
That's not an easy question to answer. I guess I'll answer just very simply. I'm really, really good. And other times I'm really, really horrible. And it's just been this weird mixture and conglomeration of feelings and things. I have amazing days. I mean, today's a great day. I started at 7:30 and went down and visited the ops officers. I haven't been down there in a few months. And it was a great way to start the day. There are other days, when you find out someone else on the team is sick, or, one of the God help us, one of the folks that we lost. Those have been some of the most horrible days of my professional career in life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Leslie?
I agree. It's been rough. It's definitely been the most challenging time of my career. We've lost 10 members of our SEPTA family for COVID, and countless others have lost spouses and sisters and brothers and children. You know, as we all know, Philadelphia was a hot spot for a very long time. And in the beginning, when we didn't really understand much, I'm not saying we understand everything on this virus now, but definitely when there was a lot of uncertainty. So that's been difficult. We had over 1,000 employees test positive. The good news is we have over 85% have come back fully recovered and are back at work. So we're really happy about that. We've been able to get our employees vaccinated. I'm very, very happy about that. And we continue to work together. You know, we see, I know when we talked about the prep for this discussion, you know, our employees have been fantastic, sending cards, you know, to me, to our other senior staff, texts. Many people on this call have reached out to me personally. I'm so grateful. One thing I know that we talked about, just because you're in a certain position or you're doing certain things, or they see other successes that you're doing, doesn't mean that day to day is difficult. And I can't thank everyone enough who has done that. And so that's been really helpful. This weekend, I was, you know, it was so nice to see the warmer weather. It was so nice to see the sunlight. And even though I'm struggling right now, losing the hour of sleep, I'm going to be grateful tonight when I leave the office, and hopefully it's not dark, and just to have that extra daylight. I think we all need that, and it feels good. It feels good that the vaccines are out there. Yeah, obviously everyone still needs to get them, but that feels really good, and it feels hopeful. More people are walking the streets, more people are out, and so that feels really good.
Yeah, I agree. Yassmin?
Yeah, so everything that Chellie and Leslie covered, totally agree. We have some good days, some not so good days. And honestly, it's been a very difficult couple of weeks on top of a very challenging year for a group of us, for all of us, I should say, at PennDOT. You may have heard that we suddenly lost one of our dear colleagues and friend, George McCauley. He was my executive deputy secretary. He worked tirelessly for the past year alongside all other PennDOT employees, team members. And we wanted to make sure that there's safety and continuity of our operations, of our agency throughout the Pennsylvania for all the travelers. And he lost his life while he went on vacation. The first day, finally, he took off some time. He went on vacation with his wife to Florida, and he passed away. And that was really the worst thing that happened this past year. And, you know, it really got us all upset. But having said that, what motivates us is the service to the public. And, you know, actually, in memory of George McCauley, we wanted to continue with our mission, and we're going to apply lessons learned over the past year, over the past so many years, to address the challenges that we are faced, continue with our journey toward building a more efficient and innovative transportation system. And I'm thrilled to say, so it's a good day and bad days. It was bad days, bad weeks, past couple weeks, but then towards the end of the week, we got some good news from Governor Wolf and his executive order that came out, putting together a new commission to address some of the challenges we are faced with transportation on the funding side. So I'm really optimistic and looking forward to the future.
Well, I can tell you, the three of you are doing an amazing job. And thank you for all that you guys are doing for us in the transportation industry. And that's why we want to celebrate you today for Women's History Month. As I said at the beginning, I look up to the three of you, and I know so many other women and men look up to you as well. But we want to know, who are the women that you look up to and have had the biggest influence in your life, both personally and professionally? Leslie, do you want to start?
Sure. For me, my family has been tremendous. Starting with my great grandmother, my bubby, who came here from Kiev. She was our first American to come to this country, and she got a divorce, which was unheard of back then. And so I know it sounds crazy that she's my hero because she got a divorce, but she was in an awful marriage, and then she found love when she got here to the United States. And I always was amazed. As you know, that was a very, very difficult time, and she got to live to her 90s, and I got to share her story with her, which is wonderful. And then her daughter, my grandmother, lost her husband very early on, and I saw her work and support her family, and of course always have large family dinners and bring us all together. And that was always very interesting and inspiring. And then my mother, who was trying to figure out how to be the mom she wanted to be, the business person she wanted to be. She was a teacher, and the hours were tough. And so she, with a bunch of other teachers, started a school. And then she could, she was the superintendent with her friends, and it was a Montessori school that I got to go to. And just seeing, that there's all different ways to do everything that you want to do and figure it out. And I would be remiss if I left out my Aunt Sylvia on my father's side, who was a suffragette and marched and did a lot to get women to vote. And when she passed, we found all these typewritten letters that she had written to every single president while she was alive, and everything that she did. And I'll just end the story. I didn't have a lot of professional mentors. I'm throughout my career, I was often the only woman or one of a few, and doesn't mean that other people didn't inspire me. But I did get to meet one of my lifetime people that I look up to, and that was Gloria Steinem. When she was campaigning at that time for when the first female was running for president in 2016. She was in our county, and while I was unable to be involved in politics because of my position with the Wolf administration, I got a call from a friend and said, Gloria Steinem wants to meet you. She is around the corner. And I thought that was, I pinched her. I said, what are you talking about? Of course, I'm in my sweats. I'm hanging out on the weekend, and my both daughters were home, and I, quickly shout upstairs to them, who wants to meet Gloria Steinem? Of course, I had to tell them who she was, and I realized, okay, parent fail. I have not taught my teenage daughters who Gloria Steinem is, so that went on my list of things to do. My middle daughter joined me, and we got to run around the corner, and as soon as I came out of the car, she actually ran toward me and thanked me for what I was doing. Someone had told her some of the challenges we were having, and that I had the honor to be the first female in a few roles. And I will never forget that, how humble she was. And, I wanted to thank her for all that she had done. And I'll never forget that day. And we have to thank each other. We're all playing a role, whether you're Gloria Steinem or one of the females in transportation. It seems like a crazy comparison, but we're all doing something, and it's wonderful that we're all working together to promote and advance women.
Thank you for sharing that. Chellie, do you want to go next?
Sure. Once I find the unmute button. So so you had a bubby, Leslie? I didn't know that. Okay, so I had a baba. I had a babushka, a Slovak grandma. And when you talk about inspiring women, I feel so lucky that I had two grandmas for until I was in my 30s, and really can say that I truly understand unconditional love. There's nothing like grandmas to show you that. inspiration, I'd have to say my mom, who taught me how to read when I was really little. She was 18 when she had me. And, when I think of an 18-year-old today, I think of someone who is so young and almost a child. And here she was a mom and, finishing her degree in elementary education. And, her experiment was me in teaching me how to read. And it's pretty amazing when you think about it. One other thing I want to mention. So, there's the concept of being a mentor and being a sponsor, right? And mentors, can give you advice. Sponsors are able to open up opportunities for you. When I worked at the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, I decided that I wanted to look for my next opportunity, and the Philadelphia job came open. It was a CFO job, and I was really excited. I applied and was really fortunate to be offered the role. I went to talk to a woman who had inspired me. Her name was Margaret McKeough. She was the chief operating officer at MWA. She retired about a year and a half ago. And I went to tell her that I got the job in Philadelphia and to thank her for being an inspiration, being a woman who had made it to the number 2 position at that airports authority. And she told me, she said, I'm the one who put you in for that job in Philly. And so going back to the definition of a sponsor, a lot of times, finding someone, it just happened that she was somebody that was inspiring to me, but finding someone who can help open up opportunities for you, even when you don't know that they're doing it, is really special. And I can say that I'm even more inspired by her today, knowing that she did that for me.
I think I have met Margaret, and she's the few minutes I did get to spend with her, she was an amazing lady. So
oh, that's right. We met with her.
Speak to her. Yeah. Yassmin?
Yeah, so like Chellie and Leslie, there are so many women, there are so many people who really influenced who I became and inspired me. But on the personal level, my mother, she was a high school teacher. She went overseas at the age of 18 to study fashion design and culinary arts to UK. That's 72 years ago. And she was a solo girl, all by herself, living with a British family. And when she returned back to the old country, she became a high school teacher while raising 3 children. But I'm listening to Leslie and Chellie. It's like, grandmother who had the vision at the time. I mean, she had a big family. She had 7 children, but she treated the girls and the boys the same. They all, fortunately, they had the means to send the kids away for higher education, and they did the same for both girls and boys. No difference back then. On a professional level, there were several national and international figures that they always impressed me. I remember my mother, she had an allegiance to the British Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, and she used to call her the Lioness. And she always talked about her, that she is this strong lady, smart lady, breaking all the glass ceilings at the time. And, she always talked about her. And there are many people like Margaret Thatcher, obviously our own RBG, Angela Merkel, Malaya, they're all influencers, right? They're all inspire us to reach our full potential and make an impact with wherever we are, in our position. And of course, I have to say, Chellie talked about sponsors. I have to say that's really has been an important part of my life, having friends and networks and sponsors. The 2 ladies on this panel, Leslie and Chellie, Rhina Cutler, I want to give a shout out for her, always looking out for the women in her network and encouraging them to step up, and also encouraging the business to promote women and advocate for them. And I wanted to say they're all influencers. They have been influencers in my life.
I have to second Rhina too. I always, whenever I see her, I have to always remind her about an impact that she's had on me since I came to Philadelphia almost 8 years ago, and I like to remind her about it. So it's so important for us to talk about women and female role models because there's just so few women in leadership roles. Before I ask my next question, I want to provide some stats just so that everyone can see where I'm coming from with this question. So as of last month, there are 21 countries that have women as elected heads of state or government. That sounds like a good number, but it's not, because 172 countries have men as elected heads of state or government. There are currently 40 CEOs that are women of Fortune 500 companies. Again, that sounds like a good number, but the remaining 460 are men. Last month, a study commissioned by Netflix found that only 23% of its films made in 2018 and 2019 were directed by women. So these are just a few stats, but you can clearly see a pattern in all industries, not just transportation, right? So today happens to be Ruth Bader Ginsburg's birthday. She would have been 88 years old. So happy birthday, Justice Ginsburg. One of her most powerful quotes is when there are 9, to the question, when will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? So I want to ask each of you, when will there be enough women in your organization?
So I can go. You know, PennDOT has got over 11,000 employees, and of that 11,000 employees, only we have 76% male, white male, about 20% females, and about 10% minorities. These numbers are treading in the right direction in terms of increasing diversity, but we still have a long way to go. I always say it's an evolutionary process. It's going to take time. It's important to have a pipeline, to start feeding the pipeline early on. And the pipeline is defined in steps: elementary school, high school, higher education, workforce, getting rid of the biases, and having advocates and sponsors. I can't say there is a number or a percentage that we will reach and say, okay, we've made it. I think, you know, it's ideally, the way I look at things is we have to reach an equilibrium where the organization is mirroring the society. You know, it has to be a natural state, reflective of the society. And the other thing I wanted to say is hiring women, just hiring women and members of the minority group, honestly, it's just the bare minimum that we can do. There is so much more that we need to put in place on different programs as an organization that we introduce in development for women and minority, for upward mobility, and you know, leadership programs and executive programs that we can put in place to make sure that we do reach that equilibrium.
Great answer, Yassmin. Leslie or Chellie?
I'll take that next. Yeah, I love you know, RBG's answer, and you know, she followed that up with, you know, no one ever complained when there were 9 men, right? No one ever thought that that was too much of a male perspective, right? So why would 9 women be too many women on a board or on, you know, on our courts? So I'm a firm believer in that as well. I also love people here at SEPTA. I'm the 2nd female general manager. Faye Moore was the first, a Black woman. I'm the first white woman, first Jewish woman here. And I always, someone said to me, oh, you know, do you mind being the 2nd? And I said, I love being the 2nd. RBG was the 2nd female, you know, Supreme Court justice, and she really made an impact. And you know, I would love the time when we don't have to count, right? Especially not count on one hand when a female takes a major role. One thing I do want to mention in transit, where I feel it's even more important to have more women represented, is that particularly during this pandemic, we have lost white male riders. White male riders in more significant numbers have other options. They have cars, they have the ability to work from home, they have flexibility in their schedules. And we've seen that more and more women, and particularly women of color, do not have those options. And so when running a transit system, Right now, where we have over 68% are females, a large percentage, majority are Black and Latino riders, and 92% of them are using transit to commute. That means, you know, to get a salary to provide for their families. I think it's even more important that we have more women making those decisions, because they are our customers. And so just wanted, you know, to add that, you know, the more women, I think the better. I think the better for all of us. But obviously, you know, a mix is great. And I'd be remiss if I said I would not be here if there weren't a lot of men who supported me and support, again, the advancement and promotion of women everywhere. We all know that it's best for all of us.
Agreed.
So I absolutely agree with everything that Yassmin and Leslie just said. I mean, Yassmin, that you've got to lead with inclusion, right? That diversity and hiring is just the first step. That's not the last step. And you know, I love, you know, you remembering, Leslie, that Ruth Bader Ginsburg followed up by saying nobody ever complained when there were 9 men, right? I'm going to give a very specific example because you asked about our organization or very specific, answer. And Oppie, it's I will feel better about women at the airport when a woman has led every part of our organization, every shop, operations. We've already had a woman leading security at one point. When every part of our organization has at some point been led by a woman, I will feel better. And, you know, the more the better, but I want to see those examples throughout the organization. It's great. I'm the second too, Leslie, second female director of the airports. And I love being number 2 as well. But I want to see women everywhere. And Oppie, I think you're the first, right? Capital development.
Yeah.
And so, you know, kudos to you for jumping in and doing as well as you do, and taking on what is sometimes a really difficult body of work, is the way I'll put it. but you know, you're breaking barriers yourself. And when we can say that about every part of our organization, I think that's when I'll be able to say that women have truly kind of been able to make it at the airport.
I love your answer, Chellie, that, you know, once you want to see a woman run, at least break that glass ceiling in each of those departments, right? But I have to say, I think even after you break that glass ceiling, I feel like sometimes there are invisible hands that come and put the pieces back. And it doesn't make it any easier for that second or that third. But you're absolutely right. Just even getting that first would be a great achievement for all of us, everyone listening today and all of us here. So, and it's so important because representation matters. If you can see it, you can be it, right? Somebody sees the 3 of you leading these organizations, they can also aim to lead the organizations just like you are. And it's also important to recognize what COVID is doing to women as well. COVID is disproportionately impacting women. The total number of women that have left the labor force since the start of the pandemic has reached nearly 2.4 million. And the labor participation rate for women is at its lowest level since 1987. Vice President Harris calls this a national emergency, and she says that our economy cannot fully recover unless women can fully participate in it. And broadly speaking, it's the women and men in leadership ranks like yourselves who can really make the most significant organizational changes. So I want to ask you all, and I think you touched on it a little bit, but how are you focusing on a gender equitable recovery as you're recovering through this pandemic? Anyone want to take it first? Be the first here.
I'm happy to jump in here. In an organization of 9,500 employees, where 7,500 are frontline workers, I'm very much in tune of how this pandemic has hit women more than men. We have many employees who have not been able to work from home. And with schools not in session, it has impacted our female workers, particularly our women in the trades. We have a women in the trades network here that we work very strongly with. And, you know, there are welders, there are mechanics, there are also, you know, our operators. And, you know, when they don't have flexibility in their schedules, it's really, really impactful. And so, you know, we're working on that. I already mentioned how it's impacted our customers and women of color in very significant ways. But as we start to talk about our return to office plans, I have to remind you, you know, there's some people who are of the mindset, bring everybody back, bring them as quickly, you know, and I have to remind them that, you know, you know, doing so will put a tough, stressful situation on many of our very good employees. I was with Yassmin last week, I think it was, I can't remember now, and she had said to me something that I think is very true. And she said, you know, our good employees are good employees working from home, and our employees who aren't top performers are still not top performers working from home. And I thought that was a really, you know, that was, you know, a great statement, because that's, you know, where we are now. And there are some people that see things as black and white, but I do think it's really important for us to keep that flexibility where we can, to look at alternative work schedules where we can. All of us, you know, we don't work in industries where that type of flexibility, we're not famous for that, for sure. And so just looking at how, you know, what's best for the future, for the workforce of the future, and which will allow us to continue to attract, you know, the best and the brightest and the dedicated workers that we all need for our agencies, you know, to move forward in a strong way. So I definitely think we need to be open to things that maybe we wouldn't have considered before. And just, you know, everything has changed from this pandemic. And I think all of us would not be, you know, seizing this opportunity if we're not looking at every single thing we do and seeing, you know, where changes need to be made and how we need to be nimble and flexible and agile, you know, moving forward.
Agreed. Chellie?
It's a tough one. You know, I'm yes to everything that Leslie said. You know, I think it's the empathy. I think it's the understanding of people's situations in the now. I tend to think more about what comes next. And I think, you know, one of the things that you've talked about is, what about the women who will have gaps in their work records, in their resumes as we go forward, because they had to take time off to deal with family situations. That hits near and dear to my heart. My sister took time off to take care of her kids. And when she went back to work, she's in supply chain management. She started about 4 rungs lower on the ladder than folks that she was in a grad school program with. And, you know, she said, look, I've got the skills that they do. I just missed a few years. And, you know, I think doing more as we put together specifications for jobs, looking more at skills, demonstrated skills as opposed to years of experience, I think is a place where we're going to be able to make a big difference.
Yassmin?
Yeah, so a couple things. You know, we are fortunate at PennDOT. We haven't lost too many people in our workforce. I try to be, and we had the flexibility for those who can telework to be able to work from home. But obviously there is over 5,000 employees to 7,000 employees of PennDOT who have to be out in the field, whether it's on the construction side or the maintenance side. You know, that flexibility is not available. But we try to work with everyone, and we try to show as much flexibility as possible. We're also working with the Office of Administration to make sure moving forward there is that flexibility available to our employees, because we really saw the benefit of the flexibility. But the other thing I want to mention is I've been following this subject very closely. And one thing I wanted to mention is, yeah, there were some good stories about this teleworking. You know, women working from home, they would manage to sort of, as we always do, manage between, you know, taking care of the family, the kids, the work at the same time. And because we're all teleworking and it's virtual meetings and so forth, maybe some of those biases went away and we saw some progress for women to be able to work from home and do the other things that they had to take care of. But we also see a lot of regress because women, a lot of women, especially women of color, were forced out of the workforce, and not necessarily by choice, because they were the caretaker, you know, of the kids or their family members or their parents. And those numbers are not even being shown on the statistics of the unemployment. And what's really important is there are two subjects that we have to pay attention to when, you know, dealing with this situation, because I'm very optimistic that, you know, there's going to be days that these jobs that were decimated because of the COVID will come back. A lot of them were services and hospitality, and I have a very good feeling, optimistic about those jobs coming back. And we are going to need more people in that jobs, services, and workforce. And what we wanted to make sure is there is no loss of confidence, and you know, they understand that they come back, the jobs are waiting for them no matter what, how long they're out. And we're waiting for those women who had to step out of the workforce out of no choice to take care of other responsibilities, that the job is really waiting for them.
Love your answer, Yassmin. And I want to go back to something that Chellie said, and I'm going to use this opportunity to put the three of you on the spot. So will you commit to hire or rehire women with career gaps?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I want to, I have career gap in my resume. I just want to say, you know, I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. You know, I was very lucky. Someone took a big chance on me when I came back. I worked part-time pretty much until I joined the Wolf administration. That's not to say I did not work hard. And it's also not to say how hard it is to work part-time. I should say I got paid part-time, but I truly worked more than 40 hours a week, just like anyone who works part-time knows, because you don't want to let people down. People have trusted you. People, you know, again, believed in me coming back into the workforce with 3 young children with an 8-year gap. My specialty at the time was data analysis and spatial analysis on scientific data. And, you know, I'm just going to give a shout out to AD Marble and Company, and specifically Rose Booger, who, well, I don't even know why, but in the interview, she said, I think we have I found out later, by the way, during a WTS panel that she was on, that she didn't have a position for me. But when she met me in the interview process, she knew that she needed to make a space, and we would figure it out. And so I'm very much, very, very grateful for that openness and that willingness. And trust me, she took a risk on me, and I, you know, I did everything I could to make sure that I held up my end of the bargain as well. And so I think we all need to do that. So not only will I commit to doing that, I actually look for gaps and ask people, you know, what was it, you know, do you want to fill in anything? And for me, that's when I got involved in my community. And then I ended up running for office, and then I ended up meeting Tom Wolf, and then I, you know, had other opportunities. So it's usually a pretty interesting conversation as well.
Chellie?
Yes, as a City of Philadelphia run airport, we have some things that'll take longer to fix. We have a civil service system for a lot of our positions, and you know, working through that, you know, where you can recognize skills and not just years of experience in some cases, or how those different pieces are weighted is going to be some work, but I am absolutely committed to it. And when it comes to our exempt from the civil service part of our workforce, absolutely.
Wonderful. I think a lot of women would love to hear that those are on the call. And I know even in my own circle, even in my own department, I've lost a senior woman because she chose to step back. So I know it's a reality that many women are facing. And I just want to give a shout out to an organization, not in our industry, but I read this and I thought, wow, what an amazing job that they're doing. IBM has a 6-month paid returnship program for professionals who are taking a break from workforce. So they're actually saying, if you have stepped back from the workforce for 6 months or 10 years, come back to us. We will pay you for 6 months, train you with a mentor, and get your skills back up to where it needs to be, and you can join us. And again, I know we're not IBM and we don't have the resources for IBM, but maybe some of those folks on this call might. But anyways, just a small initiative like that, meaningful initiative like that is a step in the right direction. So I just wanted to give a shout out to IBM. Chellie, do you have something?
I just want to add one more thing. And, it's not just women, but it's men too.
Exactly.
More and more men are stepping back to help care for children and elders and, others in their families. I love that the city of Philadelphia has paternal leave, as well as maternity leave. So it's, and I think that committing to, I think it impacts women more right now, but it does impact men. And I think just, again, going back to skills versus years of experience is important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would just want to add, SEPTA now has our first parental leave policy for and help spouses as well. Something I felt very strongly, and to be honest, was shocked when I got here that we did not have a formal policy.
Yeah.
But we got right on that, and it is signed. In fact, there's a picture of me signing it in my office because as I signed it, we were quite proud of it. So.
Congratulations, Leslie. That's great. That's great to hear, because I talk about this very openly because I want to make sure that this is normalized. I have a stay-at-home husband, and I know whenever I say that, people take a second look like, what's wrong with that kind of picture, or at least maybe that's the way I perceive it. And I just want to make sure that whatever works for every, a family is up to them, and it doesn't always have to be a woman that chooses to step back from her career. It could also be men, as long as there are resources, that are available, like paternity leave or whatever else. I also want to make sure you guys have the opportunity to talk about racial equity, because that's been such a big topic for us in this last year with everything that's happened in this country. COVID not only has it been an impact on women, but especially women of color, like the three of you spoke about. And I know from the government, President Biden has signed an executive order pledging to focus on advancing racial equity. Secretary Buttigieg, whenever I hear him on the late night talk shows, he's always talking about racial equity and how he's going to make that a priority for the DOT. And I know the three of you have initiatives, and I think it would be great to talk about it today. So can you share with us how you are focusing on racial equity?
So I can go first. Back in August of 2020, Governor Wolf directed the state agencies to develop a holistic approach to dismantling systemic racism within the state government. He put 9 work groups together. Transportation was one of them. The PennDOT work group represented staff from across the department and all the bureaus and all the districts that we had. And we started working with the team. We interviewed. I had several one-on-one interviews with the team members, as well as the folks, the people of color and minority groups, and we gathered a lot of information. We also reached out to other agencies. We reached out to our sister agencies. We talked to NASTO and AASHTO, which is the National Organization for Highway Transportation. We talked to them about that, on how they're dealing with this particular issue. We also reached out to the community leaders. We talked to some of the legislators, and we did a very extensive assessment and getting feedback from all these different groups that we talked about. And we developed this report, and a lot of good things actually was put into this report internally as well as externally. Some of the external initiatives that we put together was on-the-job training is one of them, and we wanted to make sure that we leverage all the opportunities that's given to us from the federal government, the investment that we can do from into our construction projects, that we take advantage of it, and we bring people on board, minorities, Black Americans, other business owners on the minority side, and we can leverage this investment into the mentor protege program. The other thing that we put together was our initiative in transit partnership to facilitate workforce development. And basically we partner with some of the transit agencies to provide additional transit services between the counties, which didn't exist before, to accommodate folks from some of these areas where jobs were not available to go and travel to the other places, other counties to have access to jobs. That was, we actually initiated 2 separate of these pilot programs in 2 separate counties, and it's been very successful and well received. The other thing we're doing is we're helping some of these impoverished municipalities and neighborhoods with their grant application and grant programs. You know, obviously the municipalities and the locals with more resources, they're more successful with obtaining the grants. So we're actually introducing a program to, you know, help some of these impoverished municipalities with grants. And then we also put a council together at the state level. We are in the process of forming it to address some of the issues within our own agencies, to make sure that, you know, we are having some communication, some outreach, some involvements, assigning them to the boards and commissions, and a whole bunch of other programs that we put together.
Great, Yassmin. Love to hear all that. Leslie or Chellie?
Yeah, we are also in a very intentional way discussing racial inequities. We're talking about equity everywhere. So when I first got here pre-pandemic, I did have a little over 2 months before the pandemic hit us. And we had very serious conversations with our EEO and what we should be here. And we have continued with those initiatives. I'm very proud of the fact that we have. As soon as George Floyd was murdered, and it elevated in a very significant way, we put, I would say, we doubled down on the speed of what we were doing and how we were going about it. First, did a joint letter with the chairman of our board and myself, just letting everyone know that racism will not be tolerated here at SEPTA in any way, shape, or form. I felt it was very important that it be written and that we have full board support as well as our senior staff. That was very important. Like Yassmin said, we have an internal, for the first time, we have an internal SEPTA group. Not, you know, I know Yassmin's talking about the statewide group. And we had over 100 applicants. I'm very proud of that. And we chose 16, and they represent all different departments, all different levels of SEPTA. And so they're going to help us come up with ideas. And I think it's really important that it comes from our employees and from all different levels. We want SEPTA to be very welcoming. We want everyone to feel that they can advance and they can be promoted, and that they have the option to grow in any way that they are interested in here. And so we're looking at that. Right now, we are doing an agency-wide climate survey. It's a diversity, equity, and belonging climate survey. We hired an outside firm because we knew that we needed expertise. What questions should be asked? And I'm very much looking forward to seeing those results. This is the last week that survey will be open. Everything's confidential. In fact, this third party will be analyzing all of the answers for us. I won't see the individual answers, so that you know, people will know that they can be honest. And the only way that we are going to improve and be better is if they are extremely honest. One other thing, we're doing a variety of things, but one other thing I want to highlight, which I'm very proud of, is our open book series here at SEPTA. And we are all reading together a book by Jodi Picoult, Small Big Things, I want to say. I always forget the name of the book, but I think that's what it's called. And it is just eye-opening. Through this fictional story, it is allowing our employees to talk about extremely difficult, complex topics that make us all nervous. And we provided a safe space. In fact, we even have an outside consultant that joins the book group when we break into small sections to make sure that everybody feels safe. Tamara Dan, thank you. Small, great things. I was close. Small, great things. And it's excellent. And it talks about a variety of issues. And I'll just give you one example. And that is, it's talking about a Black family and a son who's very friendly with a white family in the neighborhood. This is just a small piece of the book. And he's excited because he's going to invite his friend's sister to the prom. And his friend takes him aside and said, "You can't do that. That's not going to be well received by my parents." And this is a white family that has invited this Black male student into their family for dinners, for holidays, for shared so many things. But dating their daughter is not going to be accepted. And we started talking about that piece of the book, and our employees started sharing what it was like for them. One employee in particular, who I actually saw this morning in the elevator, shared how challenging it was to be one of a few minorities at her school. And how while she was at school, things were great. And she was always included in activities. But once the school day ended, things were very different. And she didn't get invited over to large gatherings, or she wasn't invited to watch the football games and hang out afterwards on weekends. And also talked about school dances and how she wasn't seen as as someone dating materials, how she put it. And, it was very eye-opening, and it was wonderful that she was able to share that. And so there are stories like that are being shared throughout SEPTA because of this book group. And it has exceeded my expectations of the conversations that we're having here. And I know it's going to make SEPTA a better place to work for us delving into these tough topics in this way.
Yeah, so I'm going to add that book to my list. I know I said I don't read, but you've sold it to me, and I'm going to add that book to my book list. And also, Chellie, maybe we can do a joint SEPTA PHL book club. It sounds like they have a book club too.
Yeah.
Chellie, to you, a question.
We chose a book for Black History Month, and our Racial Equity Advisory Council chose Becoming by Michelle Obama. And it was really a great discussion. Abby, I know you were part of it. And, it was a small group, I would call a small but mighty, that actually discussed the book. Our Racial Equity Advisory Council has been doing a lot of stuff. And in the interest of time, just, very quickly, listening sessions, feedback, surveys. We're part of the citywide program. So what the city is doing, we were actually ahead of many other areas of the city in what we were doing to address racial equity. But I want to mention two things towards the end, and again, trying to in the interest of time. One is that part of the city training right now is root cause analysis. So what is really underlying some of the problems and issues surrounding racial equity in our organizations? And I think the more that we understand the root cause, the more we can put together very specific plans with measurable activities and outcomes, so that we can really start to drive a difference. And that's really what's next for us. we've kind of done a lot of the talking and the meeting and but it's really now let's start driving into some of these specifically identified issues and understanding what our plan is and how we're going to measure those outcomes. The last thing I want to mention in this area, Oppie, is we did some senior team training and we all committed to some different things. And I just want to mention on this call, right, that so I know you committed to something. What I don't know if you remember what I committed to, but every week I reflect on the week and I committed to reflecting to make sure that every week I do at least one thing through a racial equity lens, that it doesn't fall off my radar, that I am able to truly look at what I'm doing and decisions that I'm making. And Oppie, one of those things was a discussion that you and I had in how we evaluate contractors, right? And consultants. It's, are they meeting the goals that they set for DBEs? What kinds of employees do they bring to the table when they show up to do work here? So that's just one example of many, but I've really tried to commit to not this just being a one and done thing, to not just, having our racial equity advisory committee do a lot of the work, but they do, but to really myself commit to making sure that it stays top of mind.
Exactly. And it's so important that we all take some part of that. We don't have to be working in HR or have DEI in our title to be championing for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'm proud to be working alongside you, Chellie, on this initiative. And all the initiatives that Yassmin and Leslie talked about are also amazing. And I look forward to hearing more about that. I know we have 5 minutes left and Kelly is going to go through the questions and ask you at least a couple. But before we get there, just very quickly, I want to ask you one question. You can be brief, but what is the one thing that you haven't been able to do this last year that you're going to first do once you get a vaccine and we're back to our new normal? One thing. I know you probably have like a million things, but just one thing.
I can tell you, I have the answer. I'm going to go and visit my daughter in California.
Great
I miss her
answer.
so badly.
You're going to make me cry, Oppie, but I want to get on a plane and go see my mom in Michigan and give her a hug. Just to be able to give my mom a hug would mean everything to me right now.
Me too, Chellie. Leslie, my mom. Me too, my mom.
Yeah, I've been lucky that my family is close by and my kids have been able to come in and out. So I will just say, I just want to have a beer with some friends outside after work. Not work all day long without a beginning, without an end, and just relax and talk to people about stuff.
Yes.
That's not always related to work. That's going to be amazing.
Yes. Great answers. Kelly, do you want to ask the questions now to the panelists?
Absolutely. We received one from Amanda Kessler at Amtrak. Her question is whether any of your organizations have women's like employee resource groups and how they work. We know Amtrak has Not-Shade, and we're wondering if you have something similar.
I can go very quickly to start. Not yet, but we have no affinity groups at the airport, but it's something that we are instituting coming up at this year. So we're getting there.
We have a wonderful Women in the Trades, Women in Transit, WIT program. There's a mentoring program there. I'm mentoring an employee right now through it. We're looking at expanding it. And I've been talking to Carolyn Decker about Not-Shade as well. So we're looking at possibly, I hope I'm not over, saying it too quickly, but we're looking at maybe an Amtrak SEPTA combined event, which would be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, similar to what Leslie mentioned. I mean, women at PennDOT, they took the matter in their own hands and they set up their own women's group, and it's at the district level, and they're doing things on their own. The maintenance ladies are doing it. The women in the design and construction are doing it in District 8. So there are a number of different women's group at PennDOT. And it's open to men too, by the way.
Ours is as well. We have several male members. Yeah.
Kelly, do you have another question?
I do. Maybe it can be rapid. So this is from Patty Gibson. Is there anything on the panelists' wish list once the federal infusion of infrastructure investment dollars truly hits your agency?
Cargo, cargo, cargo. We need money for cargo enabling projects so that we can fully develop our cargo capacity at PHL. And ultimately, if we even just do phase 1, that's 6,000 new permanent jobs.
Yeah, my quick list is vehicles. We have one of the oldest fleets in the country, by the way. I did just visit a trolley that was built in the 1940s that we are rehabbing right now. So trolleys, buses, trains, subway cars, we need them all. King of Prussia Rail, a huge project for us, and making our system completely ADA accessible. All of these things have been too long in the making with the capital budget where we are right now, half of what our sister agencies are at. So hoping there's some capital money in that federal bill.
Yeah, I mean, I can put it in all areas of PennDOT. If I get some funds from the federal government, obviously I put it into construction, I put it into maintenance, I put it into multimodal, I spend more money on the bike pit, I invest more into the airports, I invest more into the freight system. There's just so many areas that, and transit, of course, you know.
I was listening for transit, yes.
Yes.
I was happy to hear airport, Chellie, by the way. I was happy to hear.
Bureau of Aviation.
I mean, and we believe me, we know how to spend it. We do have a plan. If we get the slush fund coming through, we know where to put it and how to spend it. There are plenty of projects. There's definitely a gap between what we have and what we should have.
I love the slush fund terminology that you just used, Yassmin, so that's great. So we're out of time. I know we can have this conversation for longer than this, but Chellie, Yassmin, Leslie, thank you for sharing your stories and spending just a little part of your day with us. We're all behind you and support you and are rooting for you as you lead us out of this pandemic. It's been a real honor to have this conversation with you today. Thank you for joining us. And thank you everyone for participating. Happy Women's History Month. And I just want to leave with some parting words. Let's all celebrate women's achievements, raise awareness against bias, and take action for equality. So thank you everyone. And I hope you all enjoyed our panel today.
Thank you, Oppie.
Nice job, Oppie.
Thank you, Oppie. So great. And so great to see all the names and faces here. Really has lifted me up today. And I feel everyone probably on this call has felt the same way. So thank you for getting us all together.
Of course. And Erica, I want to turn it back to Erica, our president of our chapter.
I think that was a great wrap up. Again, thank you to our panelists and our moderator. Special thanks to Oppie and Kelly Freeman for putting together this program. And then just a quick update. In April, we anticipate having a program on our regional trail network. So we hope to see everyone again. And then just if anyone has any questions about our events or membership or sponsorship, you can reach out to info@wtsphiladelphia.org. Thanks again. Have a great day. Happy Women's History Month.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.